Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Haggai. Yesterday, or the last time we were together, I should say, the Lord, through the prophet Haggai, told the people, the returnees from Babylonian captivity, listen, it's been 17 years since you laid the foundations of my house, and you have stopped building my house so that you could pursue your own prosperity. It's time to rebuild this temple. And then the people did. We talked about, when we introduced the book of Haggai, about that moment when they did lay the foundation. It's described in Ezra chapter 3, when the old men who could remember Solomon's temple, which had been destroyed, 5 decades earlier, wept. And we talked about the reasons, there could have been tears of joy, but also of disappointment, tears for what had been lost and what would never be gained again in their lifetime. Well, that's certainly how some people are feeling as they have gathered together to rebuild the temple, to finish the temple. And we don't know how far they had gotten when they stopped working on it. But this is 6 weeks later. We talked about how precisely Haggai dates each one of his oracles. This is October the 17th in the year 520. October the 17th. And about 6 weeks later, some of the old guys, they just are underwhelmed by what's going to be the result of their efforts. And God has a message for them today in chapter 2, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 9, which is the second oracle. On the 21st of the 7th month, the word of the Lord came by Haggai the prophet, saying, Speak to Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua the son of Jehozadak the high priest, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Who is left among you who saw this temple in its former glory? And how do you see it? Does it not seem to you like nothing in comparison? But now take courage, Zerubbabel, declares the Lord. Take courage also, Joshua, son of Jehozadak, the high priest, and all you people of the land. Take courage, declares the Lord, and work, for I am with you, says the Lord of hosts. As for the promise which I made you when you came out of Egypt, look, he's going all the way back to the crossing of the Red Sea. The promise I made to you when you came out of the land of Egypt, my spirit is abiding in your midst, do not fear. For thus says the Lord of hosts, once more, in a little while, I am going to shake heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake the nations, and they will come with wealth of all the nations, and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, the gold is mine, declares the Lord of hosts. The latter glory of this house will be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts, and in this place I shall give peace, declares the Lord of hosts. Okay, so he's saying to the remnant, especially to the old guys who can remember what Solomon's temple looked like, you're underwhelmed, but remember, I'm with you. I want you to take courage. I'm with you, and the latter glory is going to be greater than the former glory. Now, Solomon's temple was glorious with its gold and its gold appointments and its cedars of Lebanon and the best and brightest architects and craftsmen worked on Solomon's temple. We know about this from 1 Kings. But it wasn't really very big. It could have fit in our auditorium. I mean, that's the size of it, the dimensions of it. It could have fit in our auditorium in there. And the building they were building is on the same footprint. It's the same size. Now, Herod is going to come later in the 1st century BC, beginning in the 1st century BC, and he's going to enlarge the campus, the courts, so that it's just this huge campus of colonnades and porticos and other buildings and courtyards, and it's a tourist attraction. But the temple itself, where there's the holy place and the most holy place, it is on the same footprint. But there's this huge outer wall that encloses the campus that Herod is going to enlarge and build. In fact, the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem is all that's left of that campus, and it's part of that outer retaining wall. That's what we have left. So nothing of this building that they're building is even around. So this latter glory has to be talking about what Herod did or something else. What Herod did doesn't fit the rest of what he's talking about. He's looking forward to the permanent temple of God, which is us, the church, which Paul and Peter in the New Testament tell us the church is the temple of God. We are the temple of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We're built upon the cornerstone, that is Jesus Christ. 1 Peter chapter 2. We are the temple of God. And if we understand that we are the temple of God, the church is the temple of God, then the latter glory is greater, and all those things that God says he's going to do are fulfilled in us. Now, don't be misled by the apocalyptic language that he uses. I'm shaking heaven and earth, and I'm going to shake every nation. Does that mean literally the universe is going to quiver and the earth is going to bounce around on its axis? Or does it mean God's going to change everything to make this true? Well, that's what it means. This is metaphorical. This is apocalyptic language, which we are familiar with already in the prophets to describe the great lengths to which and the mighty acts God will use to bring about the fulfillment of his will. And that's going to take place in us. So we are the kept promise that God made all the way back in Egypt, all the way back to Abraham, and that God is making to them on this day, October the 17th, 520. Okay, we're going to jump forward a couple of months because on December the 18th, Haggai is going to have something else to say. We'll talk about that next time. Thank you for joining me.